everyone. My name is Dale Danker. I'm the president here in Tulsa, Oklahoma at TW Local 514. I want to come to you today with a few officers here with me to make a video and kind of give you an update on what the union's been doing and what's been going on at the base. I've got with me today
Jay Potter. Hello, everyone. I'm an E-Board officer, Local 514.
And over here in the wings, we'll slip them in here and do some cut, clip, and edit on the video. I've got George Albano and Tracy Hardin going to speak to you on some benefits, kind of a review of what's going on with the benefits. But first, I want to just say welcome aboard if you're a new hire or recently been hired. We used to like to do these videos every month, kind of look back at the previous month, look forward into the upcoming month. But because I was pulled away and with this economic extension, just got out of sync with doing that. And Marla, the VP, and I, we're going to try to get back to where every month we're putting out a little quick video. This video might be a little bit longer because I've asked these officers to come in. So welcome aboard. If you're a new hire, you can get signed up for notifications when these videos go out. You can also, if they're on YouTube, I guess Al will tell you, you can like and subscribe, all that stuff, and you know how to do all that. So today, I'm just getting back from a meeting with Ed Sangrico. He's the MD of the Tulsa base. All the officers and I sat down with him and his team to discuss just any open issues that we might have. It felt like for a while those meetings were a little bit rough. It felt like it got to be where it wasn't a good use of everybody's time. So we stopped from having a big meeting with all of his direct reports in and all the officers. We kind of scaled that down to what Marla and I and Joe Brown, chairman of maintenance, or if there was another chairman that needed to go to the meeting to discuss something, we kind of skinnied that meeting down, but we're going to come back to trying to meet with them once a month and make sure that we're all singing from the same page. Ed did discuss that there will be a town hall meeting up in above Hangar 3 and 4 this coming Thursday. It's the same day that we have a membership meeting, so I'd like for as many officers to go to that as can be, and I'll stay back and do the membership meetings. But that way, in case you go to the meetings and a question might come up on the union's position or how whatever Ed has to say, how that interacts with the contract, I'd like for them to be available and hanging out in the back to visit, or maybe sitting up front in the meeting. If you don't know them, ask around. Somebody can point them out. So I've got Jay here today because I knew that we were going to, after the economic extension was voted on, it was voted and it passed, and those pay raises and things will start happening. Your new pay rate will be January 6th. You can look at those pay charts. Your rate will start the 6th, and then after the 6th, you'll get a paycheck a week or two later. I think it's 2 weeks later, and that'll be your new pay going forward. But I wanted to bring Jay in to talk about some of the things that happened during the process of those economic extension negotiations. So Jay, I know that we've already talked. We're going to talk about the OSM pay percentages, how they fell back during bankruptcy, and how they didn't come forward in the 2016 true up with the top of the industry at the time. So can you get into a little bit about the OSM? Used to be SRP. Can you bring a quick history lesson up to where we're at and talk about what transpired during those negotiations?
Sure. So the OSM classification originally started as a SRP, shop repair person, in 1995. And in 1995, the top pay for the OSM was about 80.6% of the AMT chart rate, and it was about 102 or 100%, 100.2% of the MLS chart rate. That went along and stayed about the same percentages there for quite some time, even through the restructuring in 2003. And then we got into the bankruptcy agreement, and we all took a pretty big pay cut. I think it was 17% across the board.
It's been hammered into my brain.
Right, mine too. And then in the bankruptcy agreement, there was a wage adjustment. We all come into, I think
2016 is what I remember.
It was August of 2016, August 5th. of 2016.
Let me say a little bit about that, so people that weren't here, maybe don't know the history, can at least hear it from the people that were there at the time. I was in the room when they come in, and they said, "Hey, this is going to be a long, drawn out contract negotiations to try to bring these two airlines together, U.S. Air and American, blend the two contracts." And everybody thought in the best interest at the time that we looked in 2016, August of 2016, we look at maybe going ahead and giving everybody the money. And so that's what happened. But I know you're going to get into the history of how they fell behind and what was used to make that determination of how far back people were compared to the industry.
So that wage adjustment was the company agreed to do a look at the industry standard of like type work.
Yep.
And so at that time, the AMTs got a substantially higher increase than the OSMs, as some are familiar with and others may not be. A lot of the other airlines chose to outsource a lot of the OSM work that we maintained here at Tulsa base. So at that time, the Bureau of Labor Statistics really didn't have when they did a comparison of industry comparison, they were closer to the top than the AMT was at the time. So at that time, the OSM rate fell to about 75, about 76% of the AMT chart rate at that time. So, and then during this last agreement in March 26th of 2020, it fell to about 70%. Okay, because at the same time, the AMT got a substantial increase in pay, and the demand for AMTs today is increasing. There's a shortage of AMTs worldwide. There's a shortage here in the United States, and it's driving the price of the AMT up. So our goal going into negotiations, Dale and I talked, and I know Raleigh Reeves, and we had brought this up in the negotiating committee as well, was to get that to come back the other way. Was to we know that they took the same hit, they didn't get the same increase back in August of 16. So our goal was to, we need to try to push that to come up to closer back to where it was. And I think we succeeded at that. So everyone knows that I don't know that everyone knows, but the percentage of increase that the top of scale OSM was the same percentage of increase as the top of scale AMT for this particular extension. It was the exact same percentage of increase, which brought the AMT, or the OSM rather, rate back up to about 73% of the AMT chart rate, which is closer to where it was. So that was our goal, and I think we did a pretty good job.
And one of the things, let me jump in here. One of the things that gets confusing when people are doing their math equations is the fact that the company, we were getting the A&P license, people were getting 5.25. They extended that to 850 because it's one thing to say leave it at 5.25 and just make your chart rate at the top higher, but the American has to compete down at the entry level positions too. Like Jay had said, there's only so many tickets that the FAA is going to give out every year, and so they had to do something compared to the other airlines to make it competitive. So you take that 5.25 for your license, you bring it to 850, and you offer that at the bottom of the scale and on every step going up. So when Jay talks about the percentage went up, some people might add that back in and try to change the narrative of the argument to say no, it didn't. But that 850 an hour had to be changed to be competitive at the bottom for the A&P ticket holders.
That's right. And when you look at the top of scale wage, when we compared to Southwest, the top of scale wage, we still went above the top of scale wage at Southwest. So it just happened they brought the license pay to 850. That being said, the people that are hiring into OSMs today, or if you're a current OSM and you're interested in getting your A&P license, the good news is due to our demographics and the age of us aging mechanics, there's enough mechanics leaving that the company is going to need mechanics continuously in the future for quite some time to come. So whenever if you go into, start an A&P school, likely when you get done with that A&P school, you'll just be able to upgrade immediately to AMT.
And you'll take your time, your
Right.
OSM time. So if you're sitting somewhere in a shop and you're like, hey, I've been here 10 or 15 years, it's likely you could go to the Fast Track. The folks that run that company called Fast Track. There's a lot of people out here, TW members, that have not gone to A&P school, but used their experience through the different jobs that they've worked to go to Fast Track and get their A&P ticket that way. But if you do consider as an OSM that has a lot of time, you're like, I'm in a shop, I like my days off, I like my shift. You could go out to a hangar or somewhere where there's a posting of a roster, and you could look at your time as an OSM. And if you're like I came in as an aircraft cleaner, and so we fought in negotiated in this 2020 contract that if you came in as an aircraft cleaner, you even retained that what we used to call Title I time. So it's if you hired in as an aircraft cleaner, you went to OSM, all that time that you have, if you did go to Fast Track or go to Spartan to get, you could go to a hybrid program at Spartan and do a lot of your time online and only do so much time in the classroom. Or if you went to the full so many hours a day program, which the Tulsa VOTEC offers, you would move into an A&P classification job with all of your time. So it may be that if you looked at where you would go out in AO, you may still be able to retain or real close to retain what shift and days off that you like. Okay, sorry for the interruption.
So that's all right. And I kind of run a lot of numbers, and I know at this local, and so I've run the numbers. If you was to hire in as an OSM after January 6th, where this extension rate kicks in, and you go the whole 8 years to top out, okay, and you compare that wage to an AMT with an AMP license wage for that whole 8 years, you will essentially have a deficit of $393,000. So it is worth your time to go to AMP school and earn that money, because over 8 year period, that's the difference in
Yeah.
the wage. It's substantial.
And right now, currently, we still have the company is still working with us here locally, the members, to make adjustments. If their school doesn't get out in time, I mean, they make an adjustment with their time. You're going to lose the pay. You can't make it up, but it's an advantage that it's not contractual. It's something that we just work with the company on because they need people to go to school to get this A&P ticket. So right now, it's a golden opportunity time wise because things are laid flat that you can go do it. Just got to be able to get one of these coveted spots in a school program or in an A&P program. So that's the difficult part.
That is the difficult part. I would suggest that even if you went to Spartan and paid a higher, you know, cost to get your AMP, you're still money ahead.
Yeah.
So you might consider that as well, rather than waiting.
So Jay has these charts here in front of us, and I don't want to make an hour-long video, but I've always offered to come if you want us to come to your work area and visit. We'd be more than happy. Give me a call, 918-636-6089. Give me enough days heads up that I can adjust my schedule. And if you would like for us to come out and talk about these things in your shop or in person on your break or lunchtime, on your shift, it doesn't matter what shift it's on, we can make an adjustment and come out and visit with you about it. But I know that, Jay, you cover everything OSM that you wanted to touch on?
Yes, I think so.
And the other thing I wanted to get to was all the things that happened to get the skill premium guys that were making $345 an hour up to, is it the 560 now? That was,
I think it went to 560. Yes.
yeah. Can you discuss the events of what led
Yeah.
to
So
getting that accomplished?
another piece of negotiations was the skill pay. I hired into a skill pay job, which was bench avionics, and I worked there probably at least 20 years of my 36-year career here. So I'm very familiar with the skill pay. And I also did a history of the skill pay, what the history was. And those may recall back in March of '01, on the March of
And for those that don't know, who gets the skill pay?
The skill pay are what's considered the skilled areas. So that would be machinist, welders, bench avionics, platers. At one time, it was the composites. I think some in the
Yeah.
composite world still get it.
And tool and die makers, which is last contract,
die makers.
made the tool and die classification went away. That's another area that we can have discussion on going forward in the next round of negotiations. But tool and die makers are now considered machinists. So if they in any of these skilled areas, if you go to school and get your A&P ticket, or you get it through one of the other programs, you will receive the pay, the $8.50 an hour. If you do not have the A&P license and you're still performing the same job by your buddy, then you'll get $3.45 an hour, which that's what Jay's going to talk about.
That's correct. So back in 2001, we had a 3-year agreement, and the skill pay was $430, or the license pay was $430 for an A&P, and it was $310 for the skill pay. And then, of course, 911 happened. We never achieved the 2002, 2003 rates. But when we went into the 2003 restructuring, the license pay went to $5 and the skill pay went to $345. And that stayed the same all the way through bankruptcy, all the way through the restructuring, all the way up until March 26 of 2020. And in March 26 of 2020, the license pay for an A&P, 2 licenses, went to $525, and the skill pay stayed at $345. So we knew that was an issue. You can track it all the way back to the March 01 agreement, and there was every time the license pay went up, the skill pay also went up, the same percentage, if you will. So when we received these wages from the company on September 17th, the whole negotiating committee was looking these over, and one of the things that Dale and I noticed was the skill pay was left at $345. And that was a big concern for us. And we knew we had to do what we could to change that.
And I had brought that up previously and explained it. And they said that they would take it to the company. And when they come back on this particular day and we were reviewing the charts, I'm like, what happened here? And so it was a mess. It was a big mess. And Jay, you tell the story.
Well, we're sitting around and basically, I mean, we knew that the skill pay hadn't been changed since 2001. Well, really since 2003 restructuring.
21 years.
Yeah, it was years. So we knew, Dale and I from Tulsa, when we have these skilled areas, and it was several, there's hundreds of skilled people, we couldn't support it. So we let the team know that we just couldn't support it, and we need to do everything we can to try to go back in and get that skill. So the plant, I run a bunch of numbers that evening, and so I know, Raleigh and his counterpart at the IAM would have all the data to go in there and be able to speak to this, and which always helps, and
we wanted to get him to United.
Yes.
United, those classifications make the same as a licensed A&P. And so our goal was to use that to drive it back to where we feel like it should be, an even comparison on that pay. But
so our fallback position was it at least has to go up the same percentage of increase as the 525 to the 850. So that's where we ended up. That's where we landed, and I think that was a win as well. And that was an 11th hour, last minute deal that we were worried about.
We had conversations that night till after midnight at the hotel with these guys to try to make sure that, look, this is a huge, huge issue, and if we can't get there, Jay and I will vote no, and we'll have to come back to Tulsa and make videos to try to get everybody else to support a vote no on this economic extension, because it felt like it was just too unjust not to increase the 345. Now that also includes if you was in a skilled area, you were receiving 345, and through some reduction over the history of Tulsa, and you got reduced and you got moved to an area that you were no longer in your skilled area, you went from 345 down to $1. Jay, talk about that.
Yeah, so those are the folks that were either ripped or surplus from a skilled pay area to the hangar. And if you were fortunate enough to go to an avionics position in the hangar, then you retained the 345 skill pay. If you went to a general position in the hangar, you lost your 345 skill pay and went down to $1. So we wanted to make sure we covered all of the skill pay. And so the company ended up agreeing to, increasing at the same rate, the same percentage rate as the license,
Right.
which I think was 62.9%.
Yeah.
Increase, something like that. I'm just
Went to
$1.61,
going off $1.62.
I'm going, yeah, it went to
Check your
$1.
paycheck in
Yeah.
January.
Yeah, I think it went to $1.65 for the dollar, and then it went to $5.60 for the 345 skill pay, which was a huge win for us because we were really concerned about that.
Right.
On the eve of the 17th.
Yeah.
So, anyway, anything else?
Well,
on that?
so we have. I want to do a deeper dive at a later video. I don't want this video to run on for hours, but I'll probably bring Jay back in at a later date, and we'll talk about some more of the things prior to January getting here, because in January, some of the open issues that we resolved that have to do with bidding and field trip, eligibility for field trip, swap on, swap off, zeroing of the field trip hours, January 13th. There's a lot of things that's going to happen in January that we're not going to discuss today because the video will just run on for too long. So right now, I'd like to close out this piece of the video, and I'd like to ask George and Tracy. We're going to do a cut and clip, and they're going to come and sit in these chairs, and they're going to give you a brief review of the benefits this year. So thank y'all. If you can go to the town hall. I normally would say, please come to the membership meetings. Maybe you come to the membership meeting in December, but I would say this Thursday, if you could make the town hall and hear what Ed Sangrico has to say about what's going on at the base, that would be beneficial to you to know what's going on in your work area. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Hello, I'm Tracy Hardin. I'm one of the executive board members of Local 514. And now that Jay and Dale has stepped out, George and myself, we're going to go over a little bit of the open enrollment process, previous and going forward.
All right. So why was the enrollment delayed? And previously AA would give the TW prices. Usually in September, we would know what all the medical plans and the insurance were going to be. However, I think due to the extension, we really didn't get that information till late October. And that's not normal. They were holding things back for a while, and the window was reduced from it's now 2 weeks. Usually in the past, the window was 3 weeks for annual enrollment, so it caused a lot of hectic things to happen for us, and I know some people have missed that, and you're probably going to have to deal with that going down the road, right, Tracy?
That's so true, so true. And some of the things that you may not be aware of, and we try to capture that during open enrollment, is that we always talk about premiums, and you go and sit with an enroller, and they give you a number of what you have signed up for. I want to stress this something to you, is that check and make sure you're making a deduction, and that number you were given. And when you went in to make that deduction, make sure it's happening. So when it starts out in January, you don't have any misses. You don't have any things where they come back and say, hey, by the way, you have premiums that did not make it, and now you're trying to make catch up. Also, another thing that kind of got us, gave us a little hiccup was that the extension and the payroll changes came right in the middle of open enrollment. And now all of a sudden they want us to update that payroll and update what your pay was going to be, your salary was going to be.
For the union benefits.
For the union benefits. That's so true. So that right there, they threw out a bunch of unnecessary steps. And now we're trying to make those corrections and going forward. So if you still haven't made that correction on your salary, you still have time. Try to get it done by January 1st. That's what we're looking for. And wait, when next year starts and that first paycheck comes out, that is corrected, and you don't have to worry about being short on your premiums. If you made a duplication as far as you sign up for something extra and you're not for sure how to make that change and get it taken off, get a hold of myself, get a hold of George, and we can help you. It's a real easy process. We can get that taken off for you. We know how to get hold of the right people. Other than that, we must say we can only apologize for what we have control of. And we do not have much control over what the prices came in. We do not have control over the timing. But we do have control of this. We can help you connected with the right people, with the right persons, make those changes for you, get your salary updated, get your premium corrected. And that way 2025 is going to be a good year for all of us. Other than that, you have our numbers. Call the hall if you don't have anything else, or if you want to find out a little bit more, and we'll be here for you.
Let me add one more thing, Tracy. On December 26th, if you picked union benefits, you're going to get a text message and or an email. Please follow the directions on that. If not, please reach out to a union officer, Tracy or I, and we'll point you in the right direction on what steps to take next. Thank you.
Thank you.